Warning. Listening to this show may result in increased levels of inspiration, motivation, and innovation. Side effects can include the immediate urge to take massive action to build a better business and life for yourself and others. You've been warned. Welcome to Influencers Radio with your host, Jack Mize.
And welcome back to another episode of Influencers Radio. Today, my guest has worked in the fitness industry for over 28 years as a fitness instructor, personal trainer, nutrition and wellness specialist, and a highly sought after speaker. But what I feel really catapults her into a whole different level is her developments in using NLP, which is Neuro-Linguistic programming, which we'll get into, and the work that she has done as a one-on-one life coach to inspire and motivate so many to create a healthy lifestyle. She's also the author of the #1 best-selling book, Think Yourself Thin. Please welcome to Influencers Radio, Nathalie Plamondon-Thomas. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jack.
I just would have got a better grade in French if I would have learned how to say your name back when I was taking language in school. So I'm so glad. I'm going to tell you, that may only come out of me once. So I'm going to call you Nathalie P., which is great because that's what a lot of people refer to you as, right?
Absolutely.
All right. So here's what I want to dig into this because this is something that affects so many people. You know, every day we are bombarded with weight loss advice. We see it on TV, radio, newspaper, magazines. You know, you have to cut out carbs. No, you have to watch the fat. No, it's all about the calories. No, you just have to exercise more, right? And with all this great advice on exercise and nutrition, it seems that we're still a society that struggles with weight and lifestyle-related health issues. And then comes along Nathalie P., right, and puts the spotlight on what so many seem to have been missing, which is that even with the best surefire exercise and nutrition plan laid out for you, you will still fail without the mindset that required to execute that. So let's start right there. Take us back to the day that hit you that what goes on in your brain was not only connected to weight loss, but quite possibly the most important factor in weight loss.
So, as you said, my background is in fitness. So I've been teaching fitness for over 28 years. And with either my participants in my classes, my personal training clients, I'm also doing nutrition consultation, and I would be making diet plans for people. And everybody that was successful, we realized with the time, because I was observing my clients, some of them would lose weight, some of them would gain it back, or it was just temporary as we were doing it. Everything works while you do it. The problem is you always go back to a set point because your brain brings you back to who it thinks you should be. So the problem was some clients were successful, some clients were not. And I started to observe, realizing that clients that were successful, it was not because I was able to teach them a bicep curl that was better than other or different kind of burpees or it's because I had my kale recipe salad was better than any others. It was because they were starting to change the way that they would think. They would started to think differently about themselves and allowing themselves to become somebody else from within and not just as a behavior, because people think that exercising and diet is the end of it all, but those are just behaviors. But your identity, who you think you are, the size of pants you're supposed to be wearing and the size of your belly, or if people around you have always told you that you needed to lose weight, or if you genuinely think and say and remind yourself every morning when you look at the mirror, and if you say, oh, I'm fat, then your brain hears it loud and clear and it makes you right. So that's when I realized, oh, whatever I do, even if I'm very qualified in what I do, why some of my clients, which I do the same thing with one or the other, why some of them succeed while some others don't? And it's really because of their mindset. It's really because of their language, their inside their DNA, inside their head, what they believe they should be, the blueprint of themselves that they always go back to.
You know what's interesting is how this seems to be, and I'm sure it's with other, problems or issues that people have, but it seems to be so evident with food, once, I see how you've laid it out. Right. And so I'm thinking, if I was sitting at my table and I was smashing my hand with a hammer and complaining about how much it hurts and how much I don't like it, and I was told that, well, all you have to do is to stop hitting your hand with the hammer. All right. I do it. And that would be it. But with weight loss, someone can't say, hey, do a sit up. Right. Why does the brain make it so much more complicated with food?
Because, and I think you're talking about self-sabotage. People know they shouldn't be shoving fries and burgers off in their face daily, and they know that they should be exercising. So why aren't they doing it? It's because somehow they've been repeating on and on and on everything about themselves, and they are trying to go away from as opposed to go towards something. So let me explain that. So what they say to themselves is they don't want to be fat. They don't want to be out of breath. They don't want to feel tired. They don't want to be overweight. And these are all the words, because I'm talking about linguistic. I'm a neuro-linguistic programmer. So the linguistic that goes to their brain, the brain hears fat, overweight, tired. And people keep not wanting to be these things. But your brain doesn't really realize, just like Bill Johnston just said in one of the interview with you, if the brain doesn't understand negation, it just focuses on what you say to it. So let's pretend that all your life you've been not wanting to be fat. Your brain only hears fat. And your brain thinks, okay, she wants to be fat. He wants to be fat. What can I do for that? And let's pretend that you start doing your exercising as you are doing your sit-up. Your brain is going to send you messages saying, you should stop doing this, because if you continue to do this, you won't be fat anymore. And my plan, my goal, what you've been programming me for, is to be fat. So I have to stop you right there. I have to tell you that this sucks. I have to tell you that you have to stop exercising. I have to tell you, let's pretend that you do exercise and you start losing weight. Your brain goes in a panic mode, and your brain says, oh my gosh, she's losing all this weight. She's supposed to be fat. She said she wanted to be fat. What can I do? Oh, here's a chocolate bar. I'm going to make her grab this, because my goal is for her to be fat. So self-sabotage is all about what we've programmed all these years in our head. So there's a way to program yourself differently with positive language and going towards something, towards being thin as opposed to away from being fat. Does that make sense?
It does. And you brought up, and we talked about at the top of the show, you're a certified master practitioner in NLP, which is a Neuro-Linguistic programming, and that's a big word or words put together. Can you go a little bit deeper? I know you talked a little bit about that, but a little bit deeper on, how that's different than just, sitting yourself down and having a good talk with yourself. To be able to do that, because I know there's times when you said we can let's pretend we're doing sit-ups, and quite honestly that's how I do sit-ups, is I pretend I'm doing them, right? And I could be putting something in my mouth that I know the whole time, I really shouldn't be eating this, I really shouldn't be eating this. And so I'm telling myself, I'm having that conversation with myself. But it sounds like with the NLP that you do, it happens at a different level. How does that work?
So there's a logical brain and there's an unconscious brain. So your logical brain can handle 5 to 9 things at the time. So the average is 7 things at the time. So while you're, let's say you're an auditor of the show, you're listening to this interview right now, you can probably notice the color of the paints on your wall. You can notice that maybe your pants are too tight right now and the way you're sitting. So there's about 7 things at the time you can notice. Your logical brain, you use it all the time. It's also your little voice behind your head. Unfortunately, there's some research that says that 70% of what your voice inside your head is telling you is negative, and a good 80+% is the same thing that it was telling you yesterday. So we don't create that many new thoughts in what we tell ourselves on and on and on, and it's usually negative. So what we access with in NLP is the unconscious mind. Your unconscious brain, well, the brain is the most complex structure of the universe. Asleep or awake, it controls everything in your life. It reminds your hair to grow and your heart to beat. It notices everything, 2.3 million pieces of information every second. So that's a lot of stuff. So as you're driving to work, it reads all the signs on the highway. It remembers all the phone numbers. It hears every conversation. Let's say you're in a public place. It hears everything. Even if your logical mind's not paying attention, your unconscious mind knows everything. So can you imagine all the amount of information you have? So your brain, your unconscious mind, deletes some information, distorts some to fit your own program, your own reality, and it remembers things, and it knows the answers to everything. So mainly, neuro-linguistic programming, what it does is it teaches you how to access your deeper structure, access your unconscious mind, because when you are eating what you say, I know I shouldn't be eating this, well, the voice that's telling you is your little logical mind. Your unconscious mind is telling you to eat this because at an unconscious level, there was a pathway that was created that when you sit in a restaurant, this is what you order. So we can recreate a new neural pathway. We can switch the reaction to a trigger. So that's how like your allergies or trauma or phobias, it's kind of very life-changing, everything I can do with NLP. I love the fact that when you start from the root, from where it happens at the beginning, so the very first time that your brain decides that it's going to order some French fries or whatever. So I'm not going to go into the specific on how the process works, but all I'm saying is the brain created a pathway. It's like a computer. So your body would be a robot, and it executes what the software has written as the programmation of what the robot should be doing. So we not only we set up what we want the robot to do, but we implant it. So the difference is between NLP and other counseling, I would say, or other type of self-help is in, let's say, you've all heard of the vision board of setting up what you want and writing down all your goals, and the SMART goal to be measurable and achievable. So everybody has these, and then they put pictures of their new body that they want, or a car that they want, or the $1 million home, or whatever. So everybody has that vision board. So this is a great thing. It's a beautiful step. You have to do that. You have to know what you want. But most self-help books or literature or counseling stop there. People know what they want, and then they elicit their positive outcome, and then it stops there. But the analogy that I like to give with NLP is as if you were renovating your kitchen. So you're not happy with your house. You want to do something. So you're going to set up a full plan of what you're going to do. You have that budget, and you're going to change your kitchen. You're going to remove, you want this hardwood floor, this new countertop, you like this sink and the tap. You decide everything that you want. Most people stop there. And then there's different other books that will tell you, well, now here's how to install cupboards in your kitchen. So you have a plan, you know what you want for your cupboards, and then you find in another type of help how to put the cupboards over the top, but no book is telling you how to remove the actual cupboards that are in there. So people try to install their new kitchen on top of the other cupboards, the old stuff that's there. So you have to remove all the crap before you can install the new things. And this is what NLP does. So we decide what the person wants. Then we remove all the old baggage, the limiting beliefs, all the old neural pathway that were wrongly created. And then we can install that new kitchen for you.
You know, that is absolute fantastic analogy when you put it like that, because that is, I guess, what people do. They're trying to build something new on top of a problematic foundation. And in your book, Think Yourself Thin, you bring up, you talk about the D.N.A. system, and you mentioned it here today. So the D.N.A. system, it's a series of steps that you've developed, I guess, to do that, to reprogram the brain, specifically around to lose weight. So tell me about the D.N.A. system, and I guess start with, what would be the first step of it?
Okay, so the first step of the D.N.A. system is the letter D. So, D.N.A. is the name of my company, because I do believe that everybody has within themselves what they need to succeed. It's in their DNA. We spend so much time seeking out and trying to get what's the new thing out there, what is my next read, and every time we face a challenge, we ask around, what should I do? And then we ask people, what would you do if you were me? Well, my answer is always, I'm not you. Nobody else is you. Nobody knows. You've been there all your life. Your unconscious mind, at a rate of 2.3 million pieces of information per second, was taking notes. It knows exactly what you should be doing. So trust that you have everything in your DNA and you have all the answers. So that's the first, that's how DNA came to life. Now, I broke down the letters. So D is for desire. So the first step is to know what you want. So what is your real desire? What it is that you want and what is important to you? It's a specific way of determining. So there's different questions and activities in the book where you go through a series of questions, the Cartesian coordinates. There's a lot of different ways of talking to the unconscious mind, because it's one thing to say, I want to have a Ferrari and I want to live in a $5 million home, but this is not really what you want. What you want is not a thing. It's not an environmental thing. It's not a behavior. What you want usually is coming from your belief, from your values. You want to be happy, really. You want to feel peaceful. You want to be relaxed. So there's different ways of finding out exactly what it is that you want. And maybe if you want something that is material, this questionnaire will help you find out what it is behind the scene that you really want. Like this man, a smoker that I helped quit smoking. He had actually done a lot of the work by himself. He had almost quit smoking from 2 packs a day to 1 cigarette at the end of the day. And that's when he came to me. He said, I've got 1 cigarette a day and I cannot give it up. So we found out that his father was a smoker. He had passed away and he had never really accepted his father. He was missing his father. So this 1 cigarette was his connection with his dad. So knowing the intention behind his bad behavior, if we realize that, this is all what you want. When you're craving your cigarette, you're just craving your father, really. So why don't you open a photo album, look at pictures of your dad and remember him, and then the cravings went away. He could totally quit smoking very easily after that. So your desire, the first part of the system, is really about understanding what you want, what you really want, and why you want this.
And that's remarkable because, you just talked about the example of the vision board. And, a lot of people feel that the vision board, that is them deciding what they want. But it seems like that it's so much, shallower than I guess your first step, because it's not just about what you want. I guess the vision board is what you think you want, right? And, yes. and oftentimes that's where it ends. And I think the vision board, I guess it becomes a wish board. This is what I wish I had, right? Rather than what I want. So your step one is not just deciding what you want or, putting out what you think you want, but then understanding why you really want that. So once you go that far and you find that underlying, that real desire, the real wants that you have, once you've decided what that is, what is the next step?
So the next step after is to clean any negative or limiting belief. So you've in our language every day, there's so many things that we say and we don't really realize that. So we keep saying, losing weight is really hard. And that can be a limiting belief that we have. People can believe that losing weight is easy. And a lot of people believe that. And some people would say, oh, I lose weight very easily, but I always gain it back. Here's another negative and limiting belief. I always gain it back. So some people say, oh, I eat my emotion. When I'm stressed, I eat negative or bad food. Or I cannot fit exercise in my schedule. I'm too busy. Or I hate exercising. Or I hate looking in the mirror. I always have a hard time finding clothes that fit. I'm always on a diet. I'm always self-sabotaging myself. So they have a lot of negative beliefs. And for them, it is the truth. For them, that's what life is. And losing weight is hard. And if you succeed, you will always gain it back. So by changing these beliefs, first of all, we have to find out what are your boundaries. So there's some specific exercise that we can find to see what are your boundaries. What are the things that you thought you were inside this box? And then we open up the walls to the box to realize, oh, there's another world out there. I had all these limits that I was creating for myself. And now I can see the sun all of a sudden. And we rephrase all the negative beliefs. We get rid of negative emotions as well. So getting rid of anger, fear, sadness, hurt. So there's many different negative emotion or trauma or phobia that we're carrying, and that would be the cause. I had a client sitting in my office yesterday, and she said, my mother put me on a diet when I was 8 years old because she said, I was a fat kid. I've always been fat all my life. So can you imagine if the person that is your entire world, because when you're 8 years old, the person that knows it all are your parents, right? Like these are the two people that you will listen to, and they own the whole truth about life, and they tell you you're fat, and they put you on a diet. So this person had so much baggage that we needed to clear that in order to install our new cupboards in our kitchen, because there's no way, even with all the, and people use a lot this word, and I'm looking for it. It is, they think that they have a lot of, when people say, I can walk past the fridge without opening it.
Oh, they got their willpower. The
willpower,
yeah.
Exactly. I've deleted this word such a long time ago that I can't even think about it. So willpower is, to me, it's just a false way of giving ourselves an excuse. And they say, oh, I have no willpower. I need willpower. So there shouldn't be any willpower if really what you crave is the good food. If you program yourself properly, you're never going to be on a diet, because what you really want to eat is the healthy stuff. And it does taste good to you because you've programmed yourself to like this.
It is amazing. It is amazing that when you said people, I eat negative emotions, how convenient is the negative emotions taste like Twinkies rather than kales, doesn't it? Huh? It's
yep.
And so,
what if you could comfort yourself in Brussels sprout, right?
Yeah. That would be amazing. And I think that's where I guess that the reprogramming of this DNA is about doing that, because it's just it is simple. When you say people lose weight, I think it's the old saying, losing weight is easy. I've done it many times, right? It's that keeping the weight. Often that's where that reprogramming comes in. So, once they've gone through that, and that's where I love the analogy, the way you tie that to that, you got to take out the old cupboards before you put in the new, right? So now they've taken out the old cupboards. They've cleaned it. They prepped it. They're ready to start building this new foundation or these new thoughts, or reprogramming the brain around this. So how does this third step work?
So then the third step, we take all the desires from the first section, and once you've got your fresh, clean slate, your new you, so the N is for new you, so you've got your new person, now it's kind of empty and it's ready to assimilate any new concept, create new neural pathway. So what we do is we do the implementation of the new processes. So what we do is, let's say that at night, that's when you get the munchies, you're watching your favorite TV show, and usually you get up and then you go grab something to eat, and it's usually not so good for you. So we create an alternate behavior for this trigger. So let's pretend that you would like instead to go make yourself a cup of tea. Then we go from the actual trigger. The trigger is sitting in front of the TV. That's when you start feeling the munchies. So we go into this specific place, and then we do an alternate behavior process. So it's a very specific process that we do that really talks to your unconscious mind, that tells your unconscious mind, when this happens, instead of going to grab a chip, I want you to go grab some tea instead. So we installed a different behavior instead. And then there's different exercise that we do to keep the new emotion, the new positive emotion. We can amplify them. So let's pretend that you find a way to make yourself happy and wanting to exercise. Then we can anchor different emotions. So I don't know if you're familiar with the work of Amy Cuddy, which proved that the body positioning was actually influencing how the mind would think. Because we knew that the mind would influence the body, that when you don't feel so good, you round your shoulders in, and then you curl in, you don't feel so good, you drop your head, you've got your tail between your legs. And when you feel good, your brain tells your body to stand taller and feel better. So the reverse is true. If you actually stand in a specific way, you will feel better. And then you can anchor positive feelings and positive emotion, and you can amplify them with other techniques to make them even brighter and more compelling. So as you go through life, you have all the tools then, because even if I take away anger from you, even if I take away sadness, it doesn't mean you're never going to get sad. What if you have a dog that you love and it at 15, 16 years old, your dog passes away? You will be sad. However, you're not going to get sad the same way you used to get sad, because when you're empty of sadness, when we've taken away this emotion and all the baggage that was accumulated by sadness in your life, when you get sad, it's like being sad for the first time. So you go there, but you don't stay there. You don't stay there very long. You go into the emotion, but then you have all the tools to bring you back and say, okay, life goes on. I'm not going to make this and create a big event around it. I'm going to react differently, because then you have the tools. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it absolutely does. And I guess, it all comes back to, I guess, with the book, The Think Yourself Thin, because the title, at first it's, you think yourself thin. It's almost like, think yourself a new kitchen, right? And that you can't do that, but the methods behind it and this D.N.A. system, it really does break down the difference between I wish I had a new kitchen to having a new kitchen, and which breaks down to I wish I wasn't fat, or I wish I was healthier, to actually being not fat or being healthy. And it really does. And obviously it does take effort. It does take commitment, but it also is something that has, proven to work, and not just work for a few months or a few weeks, like a lot of the quick and shortcuts that people do, but that work for a long time. So if you could, and I know we have just a short time here, is there one concept that you could share with our listeners that are struggling right now with some of the problems that you see the people, coming to you with? They're struggling, and I'm sure you're able to recognize that so quickly when people start telling you what it is. But what is a concept that you could share that could help folks with this?
The main thing is always trust yourself first, because you know everything that there is to know, and trust your gut. Some people call it their gut. Some people call it the universe. Some people call it God. Some people, depending on your background, people tend to not trust themselves. And I say, if you need an advice, if you need to know what to do, ask yourself always, and try to get in touch with your own unconscious mind, with your own personal, deeper structure, because you always know what to do. You do. And it's not true that we will, there's billions of information online, and we don't need another arugula salad recipe. What you need is to get in touch with your own self and to start working in instead of working out. So, you know how people, sometimes one of your friends will start talking to you and say, hey, I think I'm going to do this. I just had this brilliant idea. I'm going to do this. And then you look at them and you want to shake them and say, dude, I've been telling you this for 3 months. Everybody's been telling you this. How come all of a sudden you got the idea? Because we don't want to be told nothing. Nobody wants to be told what to do. And even if you seek advice, whatever people will tell you, you won't listen anyway. You want to know yourself. You want to be asked the right questions in order for you to generate the idea yourself. Because if you generate the idea yourself, you will do it. It will work. But if somebody else is telling you to do that, I'm sorry, but you'll have to start over maybe in a few months from now. So that's mainly my main advice. Do it yourself. Do it within yourself. Find a way. And whether it's with NLP, whether it's with other things that you may know, it's all about connecting with your deeper structure, because you have everything you need inside and you can be your best all the time.
Think Yourself Thin, the book. You obviously go deeper, much deeper than we can go today into that. How can people find out more about Think Yourself Thin and find out more about Nathalie P. and what you're up to?
Well, the book, Think Yourself Thin, is available on Amazon, so Amazon.com or Amazon.ca if you're in Canada. It's also available on my website, DNALifeCoaching.ca. I also have a free workbook on my website. So if you get the book either as a Kindle version or the paperback, there's a free workbook on my website that you can go download. So then you can, instead of writing in your book, you can write on this workbook. There's also videos available that you can have access on my website, so that instead of going through the activities alone, you can purchase these videos, and then it's going to be my voice as a private coach that will coach you through each of the activities. So then you can just close your eyes, sit back, and let your brain being programmed for you. Or you can just send me an email, Nathalie, Nathali, @DNALifeCoaching.com. I have clients everywhere around the world because I use Skype and FaceTime. So there's no, it doesn't matter if you can physically come to my office in White Rock in British Columbia.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think a lot of people, to do it virtually, that's probably a lot of people often think, and I know there's a difference between what you do and I guess a typical personal training. You're not there counting off reps, right? You're doing things that can be done in a virtual nature, especially with the technology today, which I think is extremely powerful. And I think one of the reasons that, I definitely consider you an influencer, because you're able to touch and affect so many people, around the world, through what you're doing. And it is incredibly powerful. So I want to thank you so much for, being on the show today.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I'm so honored and pleased to be on such a great radio show. I'm very excited. Well,
it really is. It's great to have guests like you that are willing to share and that are true advocates for the success of the people that they help. So there you have it. Definitely check out DNALifeCoaching.ca. Check out Nathalie's #1 best-selling book, Think Yourself Thin, on Amazon. We'll have links on the show post. And until next time on Influencers Radio, remember, you are the only real game changer.
You've been listening to Influencers Radio. To get all past shows and updates on future shows, visit influencersradio.com today or follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/influencersradio.